Do the Lions have a Jameson Williams problem? We got to talk about it.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And a pleasant good Thursday, everybody. Matt Dery with you. It's Locked On Lions on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's a Thursday, March 2nd. Happy birthday to my brother Todd. Into Friday, March the 3rd. Thanks for making us your first listen and checking us out wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Lions today is brought to you by Fanduel. Make every moment more with Fanduel, the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network and the NBA. Coming up on the show today, Brad Holmes' comments yesterday on Jameson Williams, I'm red flagging. There's something in there I did not like. We will talk about that and discuss coming up momentarily on the show. Also, some combine stuff. If there's a player at number 18 that is there for the Lions, I'm telling you they got to take him. Not at 6 necessarily, but at 18. I'm going to give you that player's name. We will do that today coming up on the show. Both Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell yesterday talked about Jared Goff and the Goff situation. I didn't know there was a situation, but Lions are doing some smoke screening publicly, which is very, very smart. I like that. Also, Dan Campbell commenting on all the players that they've talked to and almost a ratio, which we got to get into. We'll do that today coming up next as well here on Locked On Lions. Again, we're brought to you by Fanduel today. You can follow us on Twitter at Dery Speaks, Dery Speaks, at Locked On Lions on Twitter. We're on Facebook, the Matt Dery Facebook fan page, where we post the podcast every day. And also, for those of you watching on YouTube, thank you for checking us out on the video side here on Locked On Lions. If you missed yesterday's show, Chris Vanini was awesome from The Athletic. Talked about some of the college prospects and the combine going on in Indy right now. And one guy stole the show today, and that's who I think I want for the Lions at 18. We will get into that coming up momentarily as well. But the internet is a little bit of a blaze today, and it was yesterday, about Jameson Williams. The Lions, of course, got Jamo last year at number 12, and they drafted him knowing that he was going to miss most of the season, coming back from a torn ACL. Explosive wide receiver, arguably the best receiver in the draft last year. Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell were hugging, high-fiving, chest bumping, fist bumping, everything in that war room that they were able to trade up to get arguably the best receiver in the draft. They felt like they got the best defensive player in the draft last year, Nate Hutchinson, and then they were going to snag Jamo in a draft day trade with the Minnesota Vikings. Williams proclaimed last year that he was going to be ready for training camp, that he was going to work so hard to get back that he was going to be ready for training camp. Lions in the summertime said, he's not going to be ready for camp. And quite honestly, he's going to start the year on the PUP list. He's not going to be ready for the start of the year. Then it dragged out until November, and the Lions did not get Jameson Williams until late November. And, of course, the first few games, he barely got on the field. He caught Jameson Williams did. He had a reverse as well, so he had a couple of touches. He had some targets, but all in all, it was not the great rookie season from Jameson Williams, and nobody really said much about it. It was just, hey, he started off slow. He was coming back from a torn ACL. They're easing him in. The other receivers like Khalif Raymond and Amon-Ra St. Brown and DJ Chark and Josh Reynolds and guys coming out of the backfield like Swift and Jamal Williams, there really wasn't enough footballs for Jameson Williams. But now here in year 2, it should be a breakout season for him. Bleacher Report and others have said, and even PFF, we had Sam Monson on last week, and he wrote that, breakout players in year 2, he referenced Jameson Williams, of course, from Alabama, and now with the Detroit Lions. Yesterday, Brad Holmes was on the podium, and he was asked by a reporter about, hey, is it almost like you've got another first-round pick because Jameson Williams didn't play much last year? Take a listen to what Brad Holmes had to say yesterday about Jameson Williams, and then we will comment on it momentarily. Take a listen to this.
Yeah, obviously we're expecting big things. I guess that's a good way to put it. It's kind of like a brand new first round pick. The goal when we originally drafted him, we didn't know really how much we were going to get out of him, but it was good to have him get some kind of game experience to kind of feel the speed of the game. But we're just going to continue to do everything that we need to do to make sure that he's set up to succeed. Jameson also has to hold his part and make sure that he's doing everything that he needs to do. So it's always accountability factor on both sides. But we expect big things from him. He's got rare talent, rare ability. He's got a serious passion for the game, and we expect big things from him. But obviously we got to do both our parts to make sure he's set up to succeed.
Wow. He has to hold his part, said Brad Holmes. Accountability, says Brad Holmes. Brad Holmes is like every other general manager, cliche machine. And I'm not ripping Brad Holmes, but a lot of it is cliches. We're going to find good culture fits. We're going to find the best players that fit our system and our culture. That's what we're looking for. We want Jameson Williams back. We love him as a player. We're having talks with him. Jared Goff is our quarterback, but we need some more depth there. Like what we have. Brad Holmes is pretty good, but it's a lot of cliches. Asked about Jameson Williams, and he's saying he's got to hold his part. Mentions accountability and then kind of catches himself and says, but accountability on both sides. That does not sound good at all. What do you mean accountability? Was Jameson Williams not a hard enough worker? Accountability and having to hold his part. Now, Holmes then covered himself after that by saying he's got a passion for the game. He loves the game. But maybe there was a reason he was rarely targeted. Maybe there was a reason when he got back and played his first game that he couldn't get on the field. And that they were talking about him being a gunner on the punt team. Maybe there's a reason he caught one pass the entire season in the 6 games that he played. I did some digging. I talked to some of my sources within the building, and yes, there's concerns. There are concerns. Now, he's a rookie. He's going into his second year. They're not getting rid of him. They're not giving up on him. But do they want him to be better? Yes, Brad Holmes said it. But it's a concern. You don't take a guy at number 12 who you think is going to be a home run hitter. All right, if you don't think he's not going to help the team right away. Jameson Williams was not a help last year. Was he a decoy toward the end of the year? I guess. Couldn't get on the field. And Brad Holmes just said, has to hold his part and mentions the A word, accountability. So Jameson Williams has some growing up to do, and there are some concerns. Some people can say, no, Brad Holmes was just saying it was accountability on both sides. No, Brad Holmes wasn't saying anything bad. That's a red flag for me. Now, is that strike 1, strike 2, and strike 3's coming? No. Jameson Williams, I'm a big fan. I think he's going to be really good. But we're going to watch free agency here. We're going to watch. Quentin Johnston, the wide receiver from TCU, Lions are meeting with him. Why? Aren't the Lions loaded at receiver? Keep an eye on this. Brad Holmes was very calculated in what he said. He did not have to go there. He was asked, is it having another first-round pick? And he said yes. But then he had to say, Jameson's got to hold his part and mention accountability. Brad Holmes is lighting a little bit of a fire under Jameson Williams. And I'd be a little concerned if I were Lion fans. A little concerned. All right, coming up next, what did Dan Campbell have to say yesterday? Also, a player that, if he's there at 18, I think would be a great fit for your Honolulu Blue and Silver Gladiators. Matt Dery with you on Locked On Lions. Want to tell you about our friends at Fanduel. Midway point of the NBA season is here. You got games. You got Thursday night TNT games. Perfect time to download Fanduel and throw some money down on some association. Fanduel is America's #1 sports book. because new customers get that no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your bet doesn't win. Just download the Fanduel Sports app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything you want, from the money line to point scores to three-pointers in a game, whatever you want to do. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. Don't miss a chance to get your no sweat first bet. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right. By the way, shout out to my new best friend, Lomas Brown. For those of you that saw the tweet yesterday, at Dery Speaks. And also I posted the video on the Matt Dery Facebook fan page. I'm not going to play it on the show today. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. But I had Lomas say, Dan, on a video yesterday. He and I were out at Tea Times in Rochester Hills on Rochester Road, and for the ribbon cutting. And Lomas was great. I went up to him and said hello. We don't really know each other. Chatted for a while about the Lions and everything else. We got a lot of mutual friends, including Lions radio engineer, the BITB, as I call him, the best in the business, Al Rosenberg, works with Lomas. I'm buddies with Al very well. So we were talking about that. And then at the end, I'm like, listen, we got to do this video. I told him the story. I said, I imitate you on the show from time to time. You know, Dan, Matthew, Dan. And he laughed. He thought it was funny. So he did the video, and it was cool. So Lomas was a great sport. So shout out to Lomas Brown. He also gave me his number. We're going to have him on the show very, very soon to talk about the Detroit Lions. All right. Something blew up today. Let's do this first. Somebody blew up today and was amazing at the Combine. And that somebody is Calijan Kancey from Pitt. Calijah. Kancey with a K. Calijan Kancey was a very good college player at Pitt. Many people have compared him to Aaron Donald because he's a little bit undersized, playing D tackle. Today, Calijan Kancey ran a 4.67 40-yard dash for a defensive tackle. Tyree Wilson ran a 4.82 at the edge spot. Kancey, 6'1", 285, a little undersized, 4.67 40, the second fastest time at the Combine for a defensive tackle since 2003. And faster than Aaron Donald, who ran a 4.68. The Lions need interior defensive linemen. I know they've got a ton of guys. Maybe Onwuzurike comes back. They got McNeil. They got Bugs they got to re-sign. Kaminsky can play inside and out. Pascal can play inside and out. Brockers is gone. Dude, Calijan Kancey is already a good football player, and he's disruptive. 4.67? Speed like that to get around a offensive lineman and chase down a running back or a quarterback? Sign me up at 18. Some have projected Calijan Kancey to be top 20. Others say late first. Others have said today he's moved up. Remember Jordan Davis last year? People were talking about the Lions stick Jordan Davis at number 2 last year. He ended up going middle of the first round to Philly. Calijan Kancey, if he was there at 18, I'd love that for the Lions. You got to be disruptive on the interior. You got to have that defensive tackle. We talked about it after the first round of the playoffs and all those defensive tackles that were just dominant in the postseason, like Dexter Lawrence with the Giants and others. So Calijan Kancey moving up. Sign me up for a D tackle with speed and power that is being compared to Aaron Donald. Lions already passed on Aaron Donald once and took Eric Ebron. Not saying Calijan Kancey is going to be Aaron Donald, but whew, that's an impressive showing at the Combine today. A 4.67 40-yard dash for a guy 6'1", 285. That would be pretty cool. Very cool. And again, Brad Holmes loves defensive linemen. So the more the merrier. I'm all about, winning up front. That would be pretty cool. All right, Lions have met with a bunch of prospects already at the Combine. Dan Campbell made an interesting comment about his meetings, and we'll do that coming up next. All right, so the Lions head coach went through his interview session yesterday. Brad Holmes also spoke yesterday, both of them hitting the podium in Indianapolis. And Dan Campbell was asked about interviews and what they're looking for and how they've been going, and Campbell made a comment. He said, the Lions head coach, that they've interviewed about 30 to 35 guys, and this was yesterday, so they probably have interviewed more since. But he said out of the 35 guys that they've interviewed at the Combine, four have that X factor. Just love football. They just fit the culture with the Lions. They just love ball. They have a passion that matches what the Lions and Dan Campbell want. He said 4 out of 35. That's it. I'm not good at math. Well, actually, I'm actually not bad at math. But 4 out of 35 is what? What percentage is that? 4 out of 35 is 14%. So 14% of the players so far that the Lions have talked to, according to Dan Campbell, have the X factor. The it factor, whatever he said. X factor. I hope some more do, because only 4. I hope that some more do in the next coming days at the Combine as the Lions are doing their thing and talking to players. But I thought that was a very, very telling comment by Dan Campbell. All right, what are the Lions going to do at backup quarterback? And are they going to draft one and shock all of us at either 6 or 18 or whatever? Brad Holmes was asked about it. Dan Campbell was asked about it. Dan Campbell was on CBS Sports HQ with Jonathan Jones and basically said, we like Goff. We know he's not going to be our quarterback for the next 10 years. He's done a good job. He's our guy, but we need to improve behind him. So Dan Campbell did not do cartwheels for Jared Goff. I thought Brad Holmes said more in Goff's favor. We love him. He's our starter. But Holmes did admit that room needs to improve as well. Smart move for the Lions, who sit at number 6. They don't want to just say, no, we're not going to draft a quarterback early. We got Jared Goff. Or we've got other positions of need. We've looked at the quarterbacks. Now, Lions did meet with Anthony Richardson at the Combine. But they need to do their due diligence, number 1. And number 2, they need to put it out publicly. Yeah, maybe if we fall in love with one of these QBs, 6, sure. We'll take Anthony Richardson at 6 and draft and stash him for a couple years. That way, quarterback-needy teams like Carolina at 9 and others maybe would have to up the ante in a trade proposal to the Lions to get their guy. Raiders at 7 need a quarterback. Panthers at 9 need a quarterback. So I like this tact taken by Lions brass. Very, very smart. But didn't think Dan Campbell on CBS, when you could tell he wasn't enamored, I'm not saying enamored, but Goff. It wasn't like Jared's our guy. Jared's the future. We got to lock Jared up. Man, is he good. It was more like Goff did well, but we know he's not going to be around for 10 years. We'll address this eventually. Meaning what's behind them. Both Dan and Brett. Nate Sudfeld did a nice job as the backup. I mean, the guy didn't even get in the games other than garbage time. He got in the Bears game and handed the ball off. But he's a UFA, unrestricted free agent. And so, I could see the Lions upgrading a backup quarterback. They need to. I'd love to see them go get Jacoby Brissett as a backup. That guy is a culture fit. He is a phenomenal leader. He was really good for the Browns this year until Deshaun Watson came back. And he held it together. And for a backup quarterback, in case Goff got hurt, Jacoby Brissett could win games for you as a backup. He won games for the Browns this year. Now, is he a great thrower and super speedy? No, but he's a winning player. Better than Nate Sudfeld. But I still don't think the Lions are drafting a quarterback at 6 or a quarterback at 18. But they've got to say what they have to say publicly to keep it out there, keep it fresh so the teams are thinking, what if Detroit takes one of our guys? What if Levis is there at 6 and the Lions like him? What if Richardson's there at 6 and the Lions like him? What if Stroud drops? I think it's smart thinking by the Lions and how they're presenting this at the Combine. All right, this has been, folks, what day is today? Thursday edition of Locked On Lions. We're back again tomorrow right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making us your first listen.